Welcome, one and all, to whatever this channel is going to be. So today we're going to be talking about the Epstein class. I want to start things off first of all. I'm a leftist. I want that to be noted. This channel, this video, it's not a safe space for Nazis, not a safe space for MAGA people, Reform UKers, Restore UKers, any of them lot. This may be against a video kind of bashing the Communist Party, but that doesn't make me an anti-communist. It's more so a critique on how we as leftists can be better, if anything. I've got a little script, but I'm not going to read it verbatim because that's boring as fuck. So if it seems like I don't know what I'm saying in this specific instance, it's probably because I kind of invent my words on the fly. I I kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert in anything I'm talking about. I'm gonna be honest. I'm second year student. Well, technically not yet. I'm going to be a second year student for philosophy, so that's where my area of expertise lies. Politics, less so. I do my research. I like to keep up to date. I know communist theory. I know obviously Marxist theory, um, but and I know history as well. I'm a very big lover of history. But yeah, anything I say, I'm not a professional. I might get some things wrong. I might sound like I'm talking bullshit. But I'd like to think I know what I'm on about, and I'd like to think this will be a productive video of discourse. So, what are we talking about? So, if you've been around the UK recently in any of the big cities, you might have seen the RCP, the Revolutionary Communist Party, have put up some posters. It's got big picture of the man himself, Jeffrey Epstein, and a slogan saying "Wipe out the Epstein class." Now, okay, yeah, great message. Like, who doesn't want to wipe out the Epstein class? I get that. That's a good point. Yeah, obviously. So you might be asking, why do I have an issue with this as a poster? Like, if I don't disagree with the message, I mean, obviously I have my issues with the RCP, but that's besides the point. This isn't a video strictly bashing the party itself. That it will be a topic for a different day. This is specifically about this brand of messaging. For me, my biggest issue with this is the term itself, the Epstein class. I think it really relates to historiography for me. So, if you're unaware, there's this idea in historiography called the great man theory of history. It's a more modern thing. It emerged as an idea in the 19th century. We trace its roots back to this man called Thomas Carlyle. He was a Scottish historian, and I'm not going to say it's a written off theory. It's very much not. Many scholars embrace it. I wouldn't say it's the most popular version of history, but it's that's really bugging me. Sorry, guys, but it is regarded, and I feel like people who aren't into history very much kind of subscribe to it almost. To give like a rough idea of what it is, it's essentially this idea that certain people are born with traits that both spur them towards and make them great leaders. So you can take your Alexanders, your Julius Caesars, your Catherine the Great, your Napoleons, these men and women who were born natural leaders. And it's those people specifically, not any culture, not any society, not any specific events. It's, well, events obviously, but they're as a result of these people. It's individuals which drives history in certain directions. So the point we're at in time wouldn't have been reached without these specific people. And though that's true to a point, to say that, oh, specific individuals don't affect history, that's just objectively wrong. But there's an important caveat. They're not the main drivers, nor would I even say that a large driver. They push things, but they're a very small domino in this chain of cause and effect. So the point to be made here is that Marx himself agrees with me on this. Marx, though, obviously historian to a point, he talks about historiography. So he has this idea, obviously, of people's historiography, that it's people, the masses that drive history in certain directions. To be more specific, it's class interaction, and class interaction with production specifically. Well, obviously, class interaction with different, what's the word, levels of class, we'll say, as well as the class's interaction with the means of production and production more generally speaking. So Marx himself was, though he never specifically said, I disavow the great man theory of history, it's, fairly clear that if you read what he said, you listen to what he said, um, it's clear he doesn't agree with this. He is against this idea. He's obviously, I'm messing up my hand, sorry. He's obviously very anti great man theory of history. And I think the issue with these posters is that it aligns with this idea of great man theory of history. I think it's almost antithetical to what Marx says because the main issue with it is this idea of the Epstein class. It's obviously a placeholder for this idea of the bourgeoisie. Obviously, don't get me wrong, people don't know this term generally. Like, they might have heard of it here and there. They might have, listened to some radical commie on the streets shouting about it or showing off their newspaper that says it. But the general public, for the most part, I would say, don't know or at least understand what this term means. So I understand that. Using this idea of, a very controversial, but not even controversial, evil, condemnable, just straight up evil. I know he has his supporters, but like, not so, a lot of them. I usually I would like to be a bit more nuanced in how I look at it and look at situations. But if you support a man like that, you are just either incredibly immoral or you are just mental. Plain and simple. I don't have pity for people who support pedophiles. Pedophilia, in my opinion, is one of the worst things you can do. Rape, pedophilia, genocide. Genocide's pretty much up there, but I feel like most people agree with genocide on that one being one of the worst things. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would also agree with the rape and the pedophilia part, but that's somehow controversial to some people, which is mad. But I'm getting off topic. I'm getting off topic, guys. So the point is, I understand why the RCP uses Epstein as almost a figurehead of this problem, but I think that's the issue. Having him as a figurehead, it's almost, this is a very strange analogy, but it's a bit like Sauron from Lord of the Rings, almost. The way it's posited is, obviously, we have this great evil that we as good people need to defeat. Great, agreed. The issue is when you specifically talk about the Epstein class, it makes it seem like an Epstein problem. Much like in the Lord of the Rings, it's not that, oh, some people are just evil. It's the influence of Sauron. So once you wipe out Sauron, the world is good again. I know it's not as simple as that, but in Tolkien, but that's a different point. I love Tolkien, and I did my NEA on how his morality in the book is a lot more complex than people like to make it out. But just for the purposes of this analogy, it is, if you read it surface level, it is very much like that. And I think that's almost what these posters do. They make it seem like rather than Epstein is a product of the society, he is an issue brought about by the bourgeoisie and their politics. It's like he is the origin of it. There is no evil without Epstein. If we kill Epstein, we kill everyone in the files or arrest them or whatever you want to say or whatever the poster's getting at. It says wipe out. So to me, that seems just like knocking it out fully. It kind of gets across this message that if we do that, society's great again. We get rid of these evil people, society's great. It's not arguing for a restructure of society. It's not, remove the highest class and place it with the bottom class, or however you'd like to phrase it. I know that's really oversimplified and probably a strange way to put it, but the point is such that rather than getting at this idea of society how it is formed now is inherently corrupt, because it is. I think as leftists we should agree with that. I think obviously people, in my view, people fundamentally want to be good. I don't think there is anyone born evil. I don't really think there's anyone born good per se, but I think everyone, in a sense, has a pull more towards goodness and morality. I think material conditions and environment very much alters that. There are definitely evil people, I would say, out there, like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, for example. But I think it is to be said that society is inherently corrupt because we live in a capitalist society. It puts material above humanity, above people, above living things, not just us as people, but animals, plants, the world itself. And that leads to these evil people thriving, not just living, but thriving. Epstein was a thriving man before he got arrested. He got used as a scapegoat. Do I think he's still alive? Yes, but that's not the point of this video. Stay on top of it, guys. People like that thrive in a society which is created, and these posters don't get at that. I think they are useful as reactionary tools. They get people like, oh my days, the Epstein class. I hate Epstein. Let me see what these guys are about. But I feel like as leftists, we should strive to be better than that. We shouldn't simply resort to these, oh, here's big evil figure. Come on, guys, come join us. We'll wipe out these big evil figures. I understand that there's only so much that can be said in a poster. There's only so much you can do to grab someone's attention without boring them. I'm not here to argue that we should have, rather than a poster, we should have a 30-page long essay, essentially reproducing the Communist Manifesto and showing the evils of inherent in a capitalist society. Obviously not. That's not realistic. I think we just need to be careful to not become reactionary populists. I understand that to a point we are populist because we are inherently trying to appeal to the masses, but we should be almost more refined in how we do it. I'm not a leftist purist who's like, oh, we need to write 30-page essays, and I already said that. And we need to use these big terminologies, and we need to sound incredibly smart, because those kinds of people piss me off. As a student of philosophy, I read a lot of things, and I'll read them. I'll have to sit for like 5 minutes and think about what they just said to try and figure out what they said, because they explain these very simple things. Like fundamentally, these ideas are, oh, that makes sense. It's simple, but they explain it in such big, divergent terms and in such long, complex ways that it becomes unappealing and almost to a point unnecessary, where they're just attempting to, in my view, sometimes sound smarter than they actually are. I don't think that's obviously the case with a lot of people. I don't think Hobbes or Nietzsche or Kant or this isn't a super common issue. I think it's definitely a more modern problem, if anything, and I think it sometimes can be an issue in the past. But I think sometimes, to get it back on this topic, modern leftists do this a lot. Online leftists do this a lot. They put these big terms, they try and sound smarter than they actually are. But we, like, we need to bridge this gap. There is almost not an intellectual gap, but an education gap, where we as leftists have had this ability to go outside our bourgeois education and look at the material conditions and read theory and such. But not everyone has that opportunity. Not everyone has even the awareness that they can do this. There definitely needs to be a gap to bridge that. But I don't think the bridge should be us moving into this populist sort of view. I think there needs to be a sort of middle ground. So that is my issue with these posters. I do understand where the RCP is coming from. I am very, empathetic to the point they are trying to get across, and I understand it. But I think us as leftists, we need to do better. I think we need to be more than that. This isn't a point to say that they are poor leftists. I have my issues with them, but I think they have done good. I very much agree with that. The Marxist Society at my university, everyone, every leading member are RCP members themselves. And I think they do good to spread this idea of Marxism to the university. I think the RCP definitely isn't the worst leftist party or group or whatever you'd like to call it. I definitely would not call it my favorite. I definitely don't even know if I would say I like it, but my personal feelings about it are not important. I want them to do better because they are a very big party as well. Let's remember that. The RCP is big. Like, they have a lot of members, they have a lot of supporters. I want them to do well. I want them to spread the message properly. I want this idea to be popular and properly put across. And I think it's great that they're attempting to do that. But I think this is the thing. We can't evolve our message. We can't evolve our ability to educate the masses unless we critique one another. I want to be critiqued on my viewpoints. I'm very happy with that. Obviously, there is ways to be respectful about it. I don't want to be called a fucking idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I want to be critiqued because I want to evolve. I want to grow. I want to do better because I know that everyone has the ability to do better. No one's perfect. God, no. I know I'm not perfect. The RCP isn't perfect. Marx himself wasn't perfect. He has a lot of blind spots, famously so. But this is the thing. We shouldn't follow Marx like he's a paragon who knew everything. We take what he says and we evolve it. We adapt it. We use it. And obviously we follow a rough structure, but it's kind of like the Bible almost. Am I a Christian myself? No, but I specialize in biblical scholarship. Um, and I think this is the thing. You don't look at it and take every single thing it says literally and follow it to the letter. It is a guideline. It is a sort of way for us to understand and better grow as people. And that's kind of almost how I take Marx. Obviously, different. Same, but different is the thing. It's an analogy. So, I'm not very good at doing this outro part, but thank you for whoever's stuck around and listened. I know I speak a lot of shit, but there's going to be a lot more videos. If you like unscripted things, stick around. My next video, I'm planning to get drunk and talk about random topics that I've come up with. Because the thing is, I would consider myself somewhat intelligent. That's even a stretch, to be honest. I'm about average. I got no common sense. I just know certain topics really well. I don't think I could ever call myself intelligent. That's just a bit bullshit. I don't really know what qualifies as intelligent, but I sometimes know what I'm talking about. That's a better way to phrase it. I sometimes know what I'm talking about certain things. So things like Warhammer, philosophy to a point. It really depends. I'm not very good with this epistemology stuff. I like it. I do enjoy epistemology. I'm just not very intelligent when it comes to epistemology. It's more theology for me. I quite enjoy theology. A good theology discussion. What else? D&D, Lord of the Rings. I'm just listening on my interest now. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yes, so if you want to hear me just ramble about things, certain leftist discourse, general social issues, philosophy, moral philosophy, theology, sometimes Warhammer, sometimes Soulsborns, maybe. I don't know. Stick around and thank you for watching.